There's something many men never understand about attraction. Women don't always feel desire instantly. What you see as disinterest isn't always rejection. Sometimes it's caution, sometimes it's curiosity she won't show, and sometimes a woman simply hasn't felt the version of you that could shift her entire perception. Attraction isn't always a spark that appears out of nowhere. For many women, it's a slow reveal, an emotional unfolding triggered by how a man moves, speaks, behaves, and carries himself long before she ever admits she's paying attention. That's why some men struggle. They assume if she doesn't show interest immediately, the story is already over. But they don't understand something essential. Most women don't make their final decision the moment they meet a man. They make it based on who he becomes in front of them. And that's the part almost no one teaches men, how to awaken a woman's attraction even after she seems indifferent. Not through manipulation, not through pretending, but through presence, subtle confidence, emotional steadiness, and the kind of masculinity that makes her feel something she wasn't expecting. Women respond to what they feel, not just what they see. When a woman senses a man who knows his value, who doesn't chase validation, who communicates calmly, and who shows depth without desperation, everything inside her starts to soften, even if she didn't notice him before. This isn't about forcing desire out of someone who truly isn't available. It's about understanding the psychological triggers that quietly shift how a woman views you, how her mind reassesses you, how her body relaxes around you, how her attention naturally drifts in your direction. When a man understands these dynamics, he stops trying to win her over and instead becomes the kind of presence she naturally gravitates toward, and that changes everything. Attraction has never followed one single rule, but the way men and women approach it has shifted quietly over the years. Not because people changed at their core, but because the world around them did. These shifts created a misunderstanding that affects how men interpret female interest, or what they think is lack of interest. Years ago, a woman's first impression of a man was shaped mostly by real interaction, conversations, energy, character, small gestures, and a man's calm confidence in person. Women relied more on intuition and observation over time. Attraction had room to breathe. Now, men often assume that the moment a woman doesn't show obvious excitement, she has already dismissed them forever. But that's not how women operate. If anything, modern women are more guarded at first because the world is louder, faster, and more distracting. They're exposed to more personalities and situations that teach them to be careful. The first reaction you see from her is rarely the full truth. Sometimes it's protection. Sometimes it's emotional discipline. Sometimes it's simply her watching you to understand what space you stand in. Women still fall for men the same way, through emotional safety, presence, and how consistently a man makes her feel understood. That has never changed. What's changed is how quickly men expect interest to show up. A lot of men feel discouraged the second a woman isn't instantly responsive. They don't realize she might be observing something deeper. Your tone, your patience, your self-respect, the way you handle setbacks, the calmness in your voice, your stability, your energy. These things take time to reveal themselves. Women notice. Women today might seem harder to impress, but the truth is they're simply filtering faster. Not because they're entitled or indifferent, but because they're surrounded by superficial attention every day. The men who stand out are those who show quiet confidence, emotional steadiness, intention without pressure. A woman who wasn't interested at first can suddenly see you in a new light later. She might not have felt attraction initially, but she felt something, respect, curiosity, comfort, or simply that you weren't trying too hard. Women respond slowly to depth. They open when something feels real. When a man understands that her first reaction isn't the final judgment, he stops giving up too early and starts showing up in a way that makes her feel safe enough to desire him. If you truly want a woman who isn't interested in you to become interested, understand this. Attraction doesn't spark when you try to convince her you're worthy. It sparks when she starts to notice things about you she didn't expect. Nothing shifts that faster than a change in power dynamic. Right now, whether you admit it or not, she holds the power. She decides the pace, And as long as she feels like she is the prize and you are the applicant, her interest stays low. So shift the frame from, I hope you like me, to let's see if you fit into my world. You do this by removing pressure. Women can sense when you want them, when you're hoping, evaluating, trying. The second she feels that pressure, her brain dulls interest. So remove that energy. Keep conversations light. Don't compliment her appearance. Don't interrogate her messaging habits. Don't write long paragraphs to bond. Instead, be the man with purpose and options. That small shift creates micro-tension, and tension creates curiosity. Next, you match her energy. Not lower, not higher. If she replies slow, you reply slow. If she gives short answers, you stay short. When you don't compensate for her lack of effort, she loses control. That's when interest creeps in. Then you bring selective attention. You're pleasant, respectful, unpredictable. She can't predict you. Unpredictability is a strong early catalyst for attraction. If a woman isn't interested yet, it simply means you haven't triggered the right emotion. Attraction is emotional, not logical. Your job is to trigger small emotional shifts: curiosity, admiration, warmth. Instead of oversharing and giving away your entire personality in one conversation, use micro-mystery. Give enough to spark interest, but not enough to satisfy it. Mystery is oxygen for attraction. Every woman remembers a man through emotional tags. You need one signature vibe she associates with you: calm, playful, deep, grounded, whatever is naturally you. Consistency in that feeling makes her start craving that feeling again. You mirror her energy, then elevate it slightly. You show emotional intelligence without chasing. At the right moment, you give one strategic compliment, not about looks, but something earned. This lands emotionally, not needily. Attraction grows when there's subtle tension, something she can feel but not fully explain. This happens when you move at your own pace, when you don't rush. Women subconsciously follow the emotional pace of the man they're with. Calm confidence is magnetic. Silence used well creates depth. Playful friction keeps interactions alive. Standards reveal themselves. You aren't chasing her approval. You're a man she has to adjust to. Curiosity is one of the deepest psychological triggers in feminine desire. A woman becomes drawn to a man she can't fully define yet. She needs space to discover you. The moment she has to shift a little to understand you, her attraction grows. You're no longer interviewing for a place in her life. You're a man moving at your own rhythm, and she must adjust. That is power. Attraction often begins when something about you disrupts her original perception. She placed you in a box. Friend, neutral, not my type. But when your presence evolves calmly and consistently, her perception shifts. When you show depth where she didn't expect it, patience where she assumed eagerness, assertiveness where she assumed passiveness, she starts observing you again. Consistency is the key. Not perfection, not performance. Steady energy, calm emotional presence, attention without clinging. That creates masculine safety, the kind that makes her relax, lower her guard, and feel something deeper. A woman doesn't fall because you convinced her. She falls when she feels something around you that she doesn't feel with others. Emotional peace, mystery, playfulness, depth. A woman might not choose you at first, but she always feels drawn to a man who chooses himself. Self-respect is the magnet. Emotional stability is quiet power. Consistency is the advantage. A woman doesn't fall for men who chase her. She falls for men who make her feel something she cannot ignore.